isn't it?
Greenville's great. Greenville is a beautiful little town.
Love that town.
Did you play in the that league out there?
No, I didn't play in that league, but I had young minor league clients who played at Greenville.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
In the Red Sox organization.
What they did to that town, Joe, what they did to that town is really gorgeous.
Well, I never saw the before picture, but I saw the after picture, and it's fantastic.
Oh yeah, you should see the like the baseball fields in like Asheville, North Carolina.
Yeah,
excuse
me, guys. Yeah, Asheville I played in.
Did you like those leagues there? Did you like that?
Yeah, for a year. You don't want to stay there too long.
No. You don't want to stay there.
But I played in the Southern League, and a lot of it's interesting. A lot of those teams that are in that were AA teams when I played, Asheville.
Yeah.
There were a couple that are now A-ball teams.
Correct.
Yeah, and actually, I haven't done a whole lot of research yet to figure out where the teams are now, because there's a lot of changes this winter.
Oh, baseballs. I mean, they got rid of what, Billy, how many teams did they get rid of? Like 40, 50
About
teams?
40 teams.
Really?
Yeah.
So they got a lot of less ball players, correct?
They do. That's why there are so many available solid players for independent teams and all these other teams. They have these other leagues for the prospects and the draft leagues, and it's quite interesting.
Really? So it's really changed an awful lot. I mean, you know what? I hate to tell you, Joe, I don't care what anybody says. The time we played is the best time in the world, Big Guy. I don't care what anybody says. We didn't make much money. Yeah. We didn't make much money, but we sure had a good time.
Yeah, I always tell people it's the best job in the world. Just being fortunate enough to get the opportunity to do it, and then if things work out, my God.
Well,
here's the thing. I lived my dream.
I did too.
I lived my dream. I had an opportunity to live my dream, and it worked out for me. And I could never have planned it any better than I did. That it happened, that it unfolded.
Well, yeah, and not only that, one of the great things about having Joe with us tonight, he was an all-star pitcher with Houston in 1980. He was a Cy Young Award candidate in 81. And then the Red Sox in 86, they were going for it. They really they had some pieces that they had to fill, and they went out and they got experienced guys that, with winning pedigrees, and they needed a lefty for the bullpen, and they went out and got Joe, and I think Joe had 12 saves, 2-0 record. I mean, he was made to order, much in the same way that they needed the big veteran righty, and they went out and they got Tom Seaver. They needed a veteran shortstop. They went out in August and got Spike Owen. It's just great to have a part of the team that was so critical in what the Red Sox were trying to do that year. They were truly going for it. And they went out and they got the veterans. Donnie Baylor's another one that had success in the past. And that rubs off on the younger guys, doesn't it, Joe?
It absolutely does. And, I was looking at some numbers today. I didn't realize Baylor hit 31 home runs that season.
He did.
He had more home runs than anybody else on our team, but I just didn't realize he had hit that many, or I didn't recall it that way. And what a prince of a guy.
Oh, yeah. I started my career with him.
Clubhouse leader.
Oh, yeah.
The day he walked in. Let me tell you, when he walked in, everybody knew who the leader of the team was.
Correct. In 67, when I signed with the Yankees, he was the number 2 draft choice by the Orioles that year. And I started in Johnson City, Tennessee. He started in Bluefield, West Virginia. And what a guy. The only thing that he did not have is an arm. He couldn't throw.
You're right.
That's the only thing he never had was his arm.
Yeah.
But I mean, fast as lightning. Hitting, he was really a good fielder, but he just couldn't throw. Yeah. But outside of that, I mean, he was, to me, I mean, he was one of the best. It was him and Bobby Grich and Kenny Singleton and all those guys. Mm-hmm. And it was really a good time. I used to watch you, you know, when you had your good years up in Houston, and I used to watch you when you came in relief. You had super stuff. I mean, you really did. I mean, having a left-handed pitcher that threw strikes and you could be wild once in a while that you wanted to be wild. And that was good back then. And you know how to pitch somebody. Nowadays, you have to go right here. You have to go from up to the neck down to the chest. You can't move around anymore. You can't do that.
You're right. It's the hitters. The hitters are better now. You know what it is? They're stronger. They're bigger and they're stronger, and they can handle the bat, have more control over the bat. And I know there were. I knew how to back a guy off the plate without hitting him, we'll say, just to set up maybe the next pitch or the pitch after that. And I was thinking about that today as I was going through some names, and Buckner came up. Buckner was the toughest left-handed hitter I faced because I couldn't back him up. And he would hang in there and he'd wait for that pitch outside that I'd eventually throw because I had to go somewhere else. You know, I try to back him up, you know, and I'd back him out of the box with the pitch, but he'd come right back in there and he was right up on the plate again. He was a tough out.
You know, I tell you what, so people remember one play of a ball player. People don't realize when he was with the Dodgers, number one, I mean, he was a great first baseman. I mean, really a good first baseman. Yeah, he could hit with the best of them. He could play. They remember one thing, and Eric, you know, you probably really got, you know, all the ball players to really find out about it. And, you know, I mean, first thing, I'm really happy to have y'all. I really am. You know, Joe, Eric, Billy, you know, I'm really happy to have y'all. And it's really, really great. I've had Eric once before when he had Sham's book. And I really never met you before, but I saw you pitched an awful lot of times. And you know, I mean, you had great stuff, and you really did. And especially being a left-hander that has control. And you had control and you knew how to pitch. And Billy is a guy that's been in baseball for so long. He's 15 years old. And he has more expensive equipment than all of us together. So let me ask you something, Billy. Come on, talk about it. Come on.
I appreciate it. No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on too. It means a lot. I definitely have to ask though about that 86 team. Was there a lot of hype before the season? I wasn't around back then. So was there a lot of hype, or was there a certain point in the season that, you know, you realized that we could do something special in the postseason?
Well, you know, I was the new kid on the block. I signed with the Red Sox. I don't know, it was January or February, and came to camp. Actually, I was a non-roster player in camp because I was coming back from elbow surgery, and I spent the winter in Venezuela, just trying to attract attention and hope somebody saw me throw and liked it enough to give me a try. And the Red Sox and the Cardinals were the two teams that knocked on the door after I was done in Venezuela. And they both made offers. The Cardinals had Whitey Herzog. They had a good team. Whitey Herzog was the manager, and he was always a fan of mine. You know, we'd always banter through the years, and he called me. You know, he's the one that called me from the Cardinals and said, you got to come over here. We need a guy like you. And then the Red Sox called, and I had to sit down and make a decision. And I looked at the roster. Cardinals had about 5 lefty bullpen guys on their roster. And and the Red Sox had one.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going the path of least resistance for sure on this one. So I went in, and fortunately for me, we played the Red Sox and the Tigers were only 20 minutes apart in spring training, and so it seemed like we were playing them every day. And they had a lineup full of lefties. They always threw me out there against the lefties, and I would joke with Terry Francona. He was one of those lefties, and I would always joke with him, and I'd thank him because I said, I made the Red Sox team and eventually got to a World Series because I got you out every time I faced you in the spring. So, but that was key. That's what they were looking for, was a lefty to get a lefty out.
Right.
And I was able to do that pretty consistently, and that's what it's all about, is consistency.
We see a lot of those lefty specialists, but now it seems like they're not as important because of the new rule with MLB. You have to face 3 batters. How do you think that's affecting the game?
Well, I don't like it. I don't like when they're playing with the rules. I mean, because look, I played baseball a long time ago, and it was played in a certain way. And these rules, for me, I always say, no, I think we were better, or I think it was better left alone, because it seems like baseball rules have been that way since they started. There are very few changes. And, that rule, that was it 3 hitters now? Or
3
finish
hitters.
an inning? Is it 3 innings? 3 hitters or finish an inning?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, I guess if you can get a guy to hit into a double play and end an inning, then I guess you're okay. Whatever. But I don't like that new rule. I think there's a place for the lefty reliever, we'll say, the lefty situation guy.
Yeah. What do you think, Ron? Do you think you were a lefty facing those guys? Was it tough? What do you think about the new rule?
Well, I hate all these new rules that they put in the game like it is. Hey, I remember when we started, Joe and myself, we played the baseball like Abner Doubleday started the game of baseball. Now it's to me, it's a game of, it's a video game to me. I'm looking at this because this is going on the 48th year to be the first for the DH, April the 6th in April, right? 48 years, you can't tell me that the National League cannot make a decision about the DH. And they doing everything about, they put in somebody at second base with the tied score with an extra inning game. You can't have the shift anymore. You can't run into second base. Joe, how many times, double plays, the guy that runs into second base is running all the way out to center field. You can't hit the catcher. That's baseball to me. I'm sorry. And I understand that these guys make so much money. Hey, all these guys getting injured anyway and not having any of this stuff. So eventually, I think some reason the game is going to go back to the way it is, because it's more, to me, it's a game of non-pitching now. People rely everything on offense. It's a home run or a strikeout. People don't talk about RBIs. They don't talk about batting practice, about batting averages. They don't talk about a guy running from first to third anymore. They don't talk about a sacrifice fly anymore. They don't talk about a drag bunt or suicide squeeze. If you ask half the people out there, what is a suicide squeeze? Eric, they don't know what it is, do they? Oh.
No, they don't.
When was the last time they had a suicide squeeze?
It's a good point. I would say the game started to change a little bit in the early 80s when really, the Yankees would use their starting pitchers, for 5 or 6 innings, and then they would go to their bullpen and just use the matchups. That was the first significant change that I saw. But then like you said, with all these rule changes that have gone on, like the length of the game, I think is the biggest issue. And if I were running the game, and I don't know how Joe feels about this. In fact, I'd love to hear Joe's comments, but if I were commissioner of baseball, I think one solution to the length of these games would be to limit the number of pitchers that you have on your roster, like cap it at 11 or 12. That way, managers, won't be tempted to make all these pitching changes. Now, I know that they're addressing that with the 3-batter rule, but I'm not sure if it's enough. I mean, we saw some games last year, that were, 2-to-1 games where you'd have 14 pitchers, and the length of the game for a 2-to-1 game was, 3 hours, 40 minutes. Nobody wants to sit through that. I mean, I can't tell you how many of the ball players that I interview, from the 70s and 80s that don't watch baseball anymore. It's just too long. So that's when I think the game started to change in the early 80s. But certainly now, the sacrifice bunt, hitting behind the runner. I remember how Thurman Munson was a master at that. He'd give himself up, and it probably cost him 25 points off his batting average. But he was such a team player, like so many others were. So, this is a whole other show. but those are my feelings on it.
Yeah, if I may, I think the driving force behind this movement to change rules really had a lot to do with the speed of the game, or the time, the game time, the game length. I remember as a player, we started our night games in Houston at 8:05. And it was like clockwork. I was eating our post-game meal down in our clubhouse at 10:20.
Wow.
See, and that's, we had good pitching, and many times we were able to shorten the time of the game, but sorry about that, gang. But I think that was the problem with the younger people wanted something that was that moved along quicker, had a little bit more action, and the small ball got lost. But that is so very important. I remember, bunt defense, bunt plays that would be put on from the dugout. We have first and second, nobody out, a 1-run lead in the ninth. Of course, now, they're going to bunt. They're going to try to get those two guys over. And we're playing a chess game in the infield, maybe a pickoff to second, and then when the bunt is laid down, where's the play? Are we going to first, or are we going to get the guy at third? Well, it depends which way, where it was hit, and how you field it coming off the mound. It's a lot of I guess strategy, and I always felt that those last 2 innings could make obviously it does. It makes the whole game, and I miss that part. And you're right. Now it seems like it's home run or strikeout, because everybody can hit the ball out, even your second baseman. And if I recall, many of the shortstops were smaller guys. They ran well, but they were smaller guys. And there were times when guys would come up to the plate, and I'd say, I'm going to just take the bat out of his hand. If I can throw this hard enough where I want, I'm going to break that bat in half. And that's what I did, or that's what I tried to do. Sometimes it worked, but I didn't have to worry about a guy going deep on me, unless it was Mike Schmidt.
Yep.
Let
me ask you something, Eric. Let me ask you a question now. Okay, you're a writer now. Okay, Billy, you're 21 years old. What do you think about the analytical part of the game? Do you like it? I'm talking about you. You're the younger person in the game now. You understand analytics. Do you like it, Eric? Do you like the analytics?
Well, to a point. one of the other books I wrote, I co-wrote Davy Johnson's autobiography. So, obviously, when you write an autobiography with somebody, you know them almost as well as anybody. And Davy and I, we talked an awful lot about sabermetrics, and Davy really was the one that brought that into baseball on a large scale. He was the first guy that had a computer in the manager's office. And, I had a conversation with him about, where it's gone, where now managers, it's like they don't make a move without referring to statistics. Like there's no feel for the game anymore. And even though Davey relied heavily on statistics, he still went with his gut. And I think that's what's missing from the game. I think the best example, and, I'm sure this is going to make, you and Joe just ill, just remembering this, and Billy probably too. But, the last game of the World Series last fall, the Rays pitcher is just lights out. I mean, he's Sandy Koufax out there, but, because of analytics, he couldn't go out there and face the Dodgers for the third time around the lineup. And I'm like this, and what I'm hoping for, Ron, is that what they call it, jumping the shark from Fonzie, like that hopefully will change the mentality of going by the book all the time. My good Lord, he was lights out, and they pull him in I think it was the sixth inning. I mean, the Dodgers were doing cartwheels. Yep. So in that respect, I don't like where the extent of where analytics has taken us. I do think there's a place for it with matchups. I know, Reggie Jackson couldn't hit Paul Splittorff, and, so I get that. But I just think it's gone way, way too far.
Yeah. If I may.
Yeah.
That specific instance, I was pulling my hair up. Because that guy was throwing the ball. I mean, he was throwing so well. He was inducing swings and misses, not even foul balls, not hard hit grounders at infielders. It's swings and misses. And if a pitcher wants any weapon while he's out on the mound, it's swing and a miss, right? It tells you a whole lot about what's going on once he lets go of the ball. And I remember I was texting with one of my former teammates, and my text to him was, "What would Nolan have done in that instance?" He would turn the manager around and said, "You go sit down. I'll talk to you later." So.
I hate to tell you how many times I've seen Catfish, where Billy Martin will come out and Catfish is throwing, and Thurman is walking out and talking to Catfish, and Catfish, first thing he tells Billy, "Go, I'm pitching. There's no way I'm coming out." Mm-hmm. And, Jim Palmer, could you picture Bob Gibson, Jim Palmer, Gaylord Perry, Steve Carlton? You're telling these guys, I tell you when I cannot pitch anymore.
Yep.
That's what they used to do. They want the ball in their hands on the 7th, 8th, and hopefully the 9th inning. If they don't, you got a relief pitcher.
And most managers want that same thing too.
Yeah. And you're pitching, you're throwing 120 pitches. Now, you got a pitch count of 40, 50 pitches. After 40, 50 pitches, the manager will come out, and the pitcher, he has the ball, and he knows what the manager's going to do. He has a ball in his hand. He gives it right to the manager, and he walks on off.
But remember, years ago, the best 4 or 5 pitchers you had were your starters.
Yeah.
And the goal was for that guy to get through 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the only reason he came out was that he got in so much trouble that they had to go to someone else.
Correct.
And in those cases, if your best 4 or 5 of the starters, then your worst 4 or 5 are in the bullpen. So do I get rid of the guy that I really can count on, take him out of the game, and bring in one of my lesser pitchers in a hot situation? It's just the way it went. I want my best guy out there. I'm not going to bring in pitcher number 8 to take care of a mess that pitcher number 1 got into. You give that guy the chance to work out. It's just a different game. Now we have specialists. We have guys they groom and they develop relief pitchers in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
It wasn't that way years ago, as you know.
No, you have to pitch.
Right.
You came up as a starter, right? No, you came up as.
I was a starter all through my minor league career.
Yeah.
And in the big leagues, I started 4 games my first year. Out of I think I was in 20 games that year. I came up All-Star break. And so I started 4 games there. I started 1 game in my second season, and then that was it. I didn't start any after that.
Why do you think, okay, we're talking Billy, Eric, Joe. Why do you think there are a lot of pitchers or a lot of players are getting injured now?
You're talking about pitchers?
Yeah, everybody. I mean, there's pitchers getting injured. I mean, they go on the shelves. The first time they pitch in spring training, right off the bat, they throw a little bit harder. And now all of a sudden, their elbow goes. I mean, paying these guys $100 million, I have no idea before they, get $100 million. I can't believe they don't check every muscle in their body. With us, when we're pitching well, we're trying to get a $500 to $1,000 a year raise. I mean, they telling us we didn't get this guy out on the 8th inning, or we struck out with the guy on third base. I mean, these guys, what do you think? Why do you think they're getting injured as much as now? Why are they getting hurt so much?
My theory on that is not so much that the players are falling apart. I think the medical profession at this point, when it comes to athletes and professional sports, are so much more attuned. They know more, and they will get a guy out of there before he becomes a disaster, right? So the knowledge of the body, there's so many people involved in the health of the players right now that if a guy, hey, it's just not feeling right, well, they'll skip him on this one and not take the chance of it becoming a major injury where you lose him for 6 weeks. So I think that's part of it. I think now players are stronger. I think players are more attuned to their bodies and what they can do, and they know their body speaks to them. And I always felt that I mean, as an athlete, at least, I felt I did. I listened to my body the best I could. My major injury with my elbow, which required the Tommy John surgery, when that tendon goes, you don't have to be a genius to know you can't throw the ball anymore. And that's what it was. That was a serious injury. But I just think guys are more attuned to their bodies, and the trainers and the medical staff, they're required to get those guys out of there. When teams are investing so much money in certain guys, they don't want that guy out there trying to limp through it. You won't see a Billy Buckner out there again. Teams won't allow that.
Joe, I'd like to ask you a question. You had an injury that was so serious that you told me that you thought it was probably over, that your all-star career was probably over with, and you come back from that, and then you're pitching in the American League Championship Series in '86, and then you're pitching in the World Series. At any time when you were out on the mound, say in the World Series, before a 55 share on TV, the biggest television audience ever to watch the World Series, at any time, did you stop yourself and just take it all in and think back to when You thought it was over, and now, you're under the brightest lights in baseball?
You know, Eric, I don't want to say I didn't. Pitching in the World Series was really kind of I got to the peak. I got to the summit, we'll say. I wish we could have won, obviously. But I want you to know that every day that I went to a stadium and put a uniform on and got to go out on that field, I felt that way.
Wow.
Baseball was so ingrained in me from the time I was a little guy. And that was the thing I wanted to do more than anything else in this world. And when I got the opportunity, when they told me I was going to the big leagues, when I finally got that chance to get on a big league mound and face a big league hitter, I mean, not that I had anything I can brag about in that first outing, but, or at least that first inning that I pitched, but that's what I was shooting for. That was my life goal. And I was fortunate enough to where things worked out and I got a chance to do it. And I know how fortunate I was to have had that chance. And a day never goes by that I don't think about just that. And thank God for, how lucky I was.
When you play in the big leagues, whatever team you're on, and you put that uniform on, and you go out on that field, and let's say you're 20, 21 years old, and you look at the stadium, and you look at the scoreboard, and I don't know how Joe felt, but the way I felt when I played up in Yankee Stadium, and I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I put it on Yankee pinstripes, and I'm going in the old Yankee Stadium, and you feel like, you're on a different cloud.
Mm-hmm.
Joe probably felt the same way. And if you played in St. Louis, if you played in Detroit, Houston, wherever, when you put that uniform on, you made it. You made the big leagues. Yeah. And you look at all the people that actually, Joe would tell you that when he was in the minor leagues, he'll look at guys and said, that guy's not in the big leagues. This guy is throwing great. Yeah. But, but you're at the right place at the right time. And there's so many athletes, if it's football, basketball, hockey, whatever. One thing that athletes are missing, a lot of great athletes, they're missing their heart. They don't have this. They're not willing to take an extra swing or extra throwing another bullpen and extra couple of laps. And, it takes that extra effort to reach that goal. And once you are lucky enough to play minor league baseball and then get that call to say you're coming up to the big leagues, Joe will tell you. When they gave him that call and they told you going up to the big leagues, mm-hmm. You just, I don't know how you felt. My heart felt like it was just stopping. And I'm saying, I'm going up to New York. Where did you go to your first game?
Glad you asked that question. I was told when the manager came to, you might remember Jim Beecham. He was my manager.
Oh, sure. Beach.
Right?
Yeah.
He was my manager at AAA. He came out to the mound to take me out of a game where I'd just given up the third home run of the day. Gave up 7 earned runs, and came to the mound. He said, I just handed the ball to him. I said, sorry, Skip, I just didn't have it today. It was a hot, muggy Sunday afternoon in Charleston, West Virginia. And he said, that's okay. You're going to the big leagues on Tuesday. So he said, but your roommate's going with you too, Dan Larson. He said, now I want you to get off this mound and you don't say anything to Dan and then I'm going to call you guys into my office after the game is over. I'm going to chew your asses out, and we'll have a little fun with Dan. And that's exactly what he did. He called us in the office, and he got on us both. He said, I don't know what's going on with you two guys, but I don't like it. He says, I don't know if you're just not working hard or whatever. You don't care. And then he mentioned that we were going to the big leagues. So it was great. Oh, and by the way, we went to New York. It was.
Oh, you did?
This was the Sunday before All-Star break, and we were going. I guess on Wednesday. I think might have been Wednesday. We flew to New York together.
And they didn't even have the cell phone back then.
No, they didn't. And I also remember Beecham telling us, and don't give me any back talk. You're getting on the bus with us back to Memphis. 15-hour trip. He said, you're not a big leaguer yet. So,
Hey, Joe.
yes.
Joe, I wanted to ask you, you talked earlier about how, you treasured every moment, that you were out there on the field as a big leaguer. And, Ron, I know that you've said the same thing. And, you speak glowingly about your playing days. But for you, Joe, what was it like when Tom Seaver was traded to the Red Sox, and now he's your teammate, traded in the middle part of the 86 season, and now you've got Seaver, and, you're a local guy here in New York, and you're now teammates with someone that you idolized. Can you talk about the dynamic of that a little bit?
Well, that was, it was just another one of the things that happened in my very fortunate life, that Tom Seaver, he was the king of New York back then. In the 60s, the late 60s were my high school years. And we had my high school team, we were all a bunch of Met fans, and the coach, I guess when the Mets won in 69, and I still had one more year left, that was my junior year. So we had one more year left in high school. Everyone who was on the team got an alter ego nickname, which corresponded with a player on the Mets from the 69 World Series. Now, I was left-handed, and our other major starting pitcher was a right-hander. So he became Tom Seaver. I was Jerry Koosman. And the coach, he would post when we had games, he would post on the bulletin board outside the phys ed office, baseball game tonight or baseball game today, Koosman pitching, and it's versus Mineola, whatever, So we had a lot of fun with that. But then when Seaver, I recognized, of course, that Tom was the star of that team, and I learned a lot from him just watching him. He was a machine, and he had the picture perfect delivery, and you could learn a lot just from watching him, and I did. And he was always my guy, my idol, we'll say. And when I found out we had him coming to help us, it was like, this is great. I'm a little kid again in the candy store. So that part was fun. Talked to him a little bit about that, being a high school kid growing up in New York when he was a star over there. But it was fun to watch him as a teammate. And one of the best stories, and I think you're shooting for this one here because we talked about it, in Tom Seaver's first start with the Red Sox, I was brought in at the end to try to save the game, and I did. And so his first game as a Red Sox pitcher, he got the win, I got the save, and I asked him to sign the ball. It was a game ball, and he did, and I still have it.
Wow.
Eric, I want to talk about your book because your book is coming out in 2 days.
Yep.
How did you actually, I don't know if you are a Red Sox fan, you are from New York, am I right?
Yeah.
You are from New York. What made you decide where the Yankees hated the Red Sox? Okay. We hated those guys. Okay. You decide to write a book about that 86 Red Sox.
Yeah. No, well, so, it's my 7th book, and I write about stories that transcend the sport. So I don't necessarily write about a champion like Derek Jeter. A bad day for Derek Jeter when he was playing in New York, he might, trip over a supermodel's pumps on the way to get coffee in the kitchen in the morning. Like that was a bad day. I like the struggle. I like overcoming challenges or dealing with adversity. So my books aren't about statistics and game summaries. I like the human element. And so I wrote 4 books that were Mets related. And it really began because I was approached through my agent to do a book with Mookie Wilson. And so from Mookie, I did a book with the 86 Mets, Kings of Queens. Davey Johnson loved the book, and he said, "You're the guy to do my autobiography." And then Art Shamsky wanted to do a book on the 69 Mets for the 50th reunion of the 69 championship team. And I'm like, God, there have been so many books written about that team. We need an angle. And that's when we thought up the idea of bringing Koosman, Swoboda, and Harrelson with us to visit with Tom Seaver for that final reunion of Tom's life, when we knew it would be the last time they would all be together. And before that, I wrote a book with Steve Blass, who pitched for the Pirates. And my first book was with Glenn Burke, a former Dodger player who died of AIDS. And Jamie Lee Curtis bought the options to my book and is making a movie. So really, I go to where the stories are. So with the 86 Red Sox, I was in Boston those years. I went to Emerson College from 84 through 88. And I was working in the media for the CBS affiliate in Boston. And, I was reporting on the team, and I was going to 50 or 60 games a year. I'd open up my bedroom window and I could hear the national anthem play. And that 86 Red Sox team has always intrigued me, because no team in baseball history has enjoyed the highest of highs and the lowest of lows within a 2-week period more than the 86 Red Sox. I mean, they were 1 strike away from elimination against the Angels in Anaheim. I mean, the police were on the field. Joe will tell you, the guys in the dugout couldn't see the field because the police officers, they were dealing with crowd control that they were anticipating when the fans would run on the field. I mean, it was over. And the Red Sox make this incredible comeback with the home runs by Baylor and Henderson. Then the Angels tie it up, and then it looks like the Angels are going to win, but the Red Sox bullpen holds them, and then they end up winning in, I think, the 11th inning. It goes back to Boston, and then the Red Sox, the Angels just couldn't come back, and the Red Sox just bulldozed over them back in Boston. And then, a couple of weeks later, the Red Sox are 1 strike away with the 2-run lead. Mets have nobody on, and Mets stage this incredible comeback off of Schiraldi and Stanley, and then the Red Sox have a 3-0 lead the next a couple of nights later, with Hurst just dealing, and the Mets come back in that game too. And so I wanted to write a book on the effect that those highest highs and lowest of lows had on those Red Sox players, not just for the rest of their careers, but the rest of their lives. And what I found was I had some highly emotional interviews, with Bruce Hurst, certainly, with Wade Boggs. Those stand out, even Roger Clemens, Rich Gedman was very emotional. And I think it adds so much to the story when I traveled around the country to visit with these guys in person, wherever they lived or worked, or, some of them are coaches now. So I could get what they were feeling. A phone call wasn't going to do it. I wanted to read the emotion on their faces, in their voices. And I think it makes for a powerful book. And that's what I did with the 86 Mets book. I mean, you can imagine, talking with Dwight Gooden about what could have been, Darryl Strawberry and Lenny Dykstra about what could have been, had they stayed away from drugs and alcohol, and with the Red Sox, how some players thrived after they left the Red Sox and won championships elsewhere, whereas others, like Bruce Hurst, admitted to me, you're 36 years old and you're retiring from baseball because you're too old for baseball, but you're still a young man in the real world. And that's a very hard thing to overcome. And I've interviewed probably hundreds of former ball players, and they all tell me the same thing, that it's so hard to adapt to civilian life. You're playing before 50,000 fans a night for years, and then that's over. And so, I mean, we have two former major leaguers, you and Joe, Ron. I mean, it's hard, isn't it?
Oh, I mean, it's, Joe would tell you, when you play athletics since you're a little kid and everything is, you work and work and work, and you play and you play and play. Once in a while, you might do a little bit of schoolwork, but you're out there every single night till 9 o'clock, baseball, basketball, or football, whatever. And then all of a sudden, your age, you can't do anything about age. And then you can't do anything about your body. Your body breaks apart. It's nothing you can do. It's nothing you can do. And then all of a sudden, you like, you're looking out a little bit rather than looking in, and then you get injured. And now all of a sudden you're trying to make a rehab, and somebody's behind you that's hitting 20 home runs in the minor leagues, and they're, number 2 on their prospect list, and you come into spring training just to try to make it, and then all of a sudden the manager calls you in with the GM or the president of the team, and they sit down with you. I'm sorry that we had to let you go. And you say to yourself, this is not really happening to me. I don't know how that felt about you, Joe, but when they tell you, I know you feel like you can't do it, but when they finally tell you that you're not going to do it, it hurts a little bit more. I mean, then you start thinking, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? I'm not getting that paycheck on the 1st and the 15th every single month. I'm not going to be making road trips anymore. I don't have those baseball bets anymore. I don't have a traveling secretary to do things anymore. What am I going to do? Yeah. Did you feel that way, Joe? I mean, I felt that way.
Yeah, mine was different. Mine was a little different, but I certainly understand when it blindsides you. Maybe you shouldn't be blindsided if you're not, you're 36 and you're just not producing. But I was about that age, but it had gotten down to, I was at AAA. And what happened was I went into camp with the Astros in 1988. And it was make or break. And I had the understanding with the Astros that, I either make the team or I'm going to call it a day and take it home. So I guess I was prepared. And it came down to the final weekend, and the Astros broke camp with one lefty in the bullpen. And it wasn't me. And I was really kind of surprised about that. But Al Rosen called me into the office and he told me, we're taking one lefty and we don't really know what we have in there. And you've pitched well in spring training and we'd like you to go to AAA. Now, I wasn't too crazy about that, but I just figured if indeed that's all true, and I felt I pitched well enough in spring training, I'd be hurting only myself if I said, no, I'm not doing that. So I said, okay, I'll do that. But I do want you to know I will not play the entire season at AAA. I think next 4 to 6 weeks, we can tell if I'm pitching well, I'll stay there. I'm not going to walk away from an opportunity to get back to the big leagues. But I ended up going to AAA, and I started out pitching quite well. I mean, I was doing a good job for probably the first 6 to 8 weeks, but nothing was happening up top. And it get to the All-Star break, and I started feeling, things weren't working right. Shoulder was barking at me, and my hand, because with the Tommy John surgery, I ended up with some nerve issues, which controlled my hand. And I was getting shooting pains into my hand, and it just didn't have it all. But I faked it as much as I could, meaning go out there and pitch. And if you keep getting guys out, then they're happy. So that's what I did. But it got down to the All-Star break, and I was hurting too much. And I called the Astros, and I said, look, it's come down to put up or shut up. And if I can't be on a big league roster, whether it be yours or someone else, when we come back from the All-Star break or when play resumes after the All-Star break, then I'm leaving. And that's not to threaten anybody, but it's just to give you an opportunity to make alternate plans if you need a player here to replace me. And that's what happened. I remember the final game that we played, which would be on the Sunday before the All-Star game. How ironic that I was brought up at the same time my very first year, the All-Star break that Sunday. So I then left Tucson, and I remember walking to the gate at the airport, and I stopped and I turned around, literally turned around as if to look at where I was. And it was like a calm. If this is the way it's going to end up and I don't have another opportunity by Thursday, then I'm okay with it. And that, so I guess since I was the one who walked away, it's a little bit different than getting that called into the office and them telling you they don't need you anymore. It came down to where, because of my arm, it was easier for me to say, I don't need you anymore. And so that was it. I went home. I got a couple of calls to go back to AAA with other teams, but nothing at the big league level. And I knew that was it.
Joe, I want to ask you a question on that. You thought that you were out of the game a few years before that, and then you work your way back. And then you have that magical season in Boston where you go to the World Series. Did that somehow prepare you for almost like a second point in your career when you thought it was over and you decided that it would be?
Well, maybe so. I'm trying to think, how to answer that question, but the fact that I did get to the World Series, again, so thankful for that, that it all just kind of came together, and here I find myself in the World Series when I thought I was done. And so maybe because I had gotten to the World Series and I was able to make another check off my bucket list,
yeah,
it was easier for me to turn the page and, go back to real life. That's really what it was. And
see, it was hard for me because in '77, I was injured. And when when we won the championship, the American League Championship in 76, I was on the DL, okay? I was injured. In 77, I got injured again in spring training. So I missed the whole year. So they went to the World Series. Eventually they beat the Dodgers, okay? And I'm on the, I'm on the team, but I'm not on the team. But I mean, that's, see, I wanted to be part of, being part of a major league team is one thing, but trying to reach the major thing and to reach the pennant and then eventually reach the World Series. That's what you want to reach. But unfortunately, I did not do it on a playing time. I got it on the DL time. And I didn't want to leave it like that. I wanted to win. I wanted to have that place. But even to this day, I start thinking about, I'm reminisce about your time up in the big leagues, about the good times and the bad times. And I know Joe thinks about this. And I know that you got wonderful friends that, after your career is over with, we had wonderful, wonderful friends. But I don't think the people nowadays, and I go down to the clubhouse and I go to Old Timers Day and I see these guys and they're all different. They're all spreading out differently. They're not together like we were. We went out to dinner with these guys. We rode to the ballpark together, but it's changed, But I got to say one thing: we made a lot of friends, and it's been wonderful. And Billy, are you bored listening to all this stuff, or are you taking it in?
Oh no, it's great stuff. Great stuff. No, I mean, I wasn't around back then, so it's great to hear about that.
Well, it's. But I want to talk one more thing about your book, Eric, and with the your last book with the Mets, it was wonderful. I read half of it. I did not read the whole thing because I would tell you right now, I usually read like a half a chapter and I get bored and I look at the back of the book. But this was so good. And Sham was telling me so much about your trip to California with Seaver and Kuz and Swoboda and, Kuzman and Kuzman, he's a little quirky and then you get Swoboda, you get those two people fighting with one another. And then you get, and unfortunately you get a Buddy, and Buddy was sick and stuff. But you get these guys and, hey, and with this book, which you have written, it's going to come out on Thursday. I'm excited about the book. And you getting so many great plays with it. And I'm really excited. Well, every book that you've done, every time I go to Barnes and Noble, I see Eric Sherman, the king and queen. Every book you have, it's wonderful. And I'm so proud of you, big guy. And you deserve it. You deserve it. Hey, one day, HOF, right? The Baseball Hall of Fame. One day, it's going to be close. It's going to be close. I hope so, because you're that good a writer. And I hope you do. And it's going to be fun to read and stuff like that. And with Joe and stuff, meeting him for the first time and watching him. And I'm so honored, just to do these things. And, it's really, really nice to meet you got a small fraternity. And with Billy, the Bat Boy, one day we're going to be on our assisted living. And then all of a sudden we're going to be turning on the screen. He's going to be with ESPN, and we're going to be watching him and say, we remember this guy 10 years ago, and we're with our walker and a hover round and a cane and everything like that. And we're watching you on TV. We remember this guy, and I hope you remember us. But it's fun. It's fun. And we really enjoy this. And, you want to say anything else about your book? And, I know you're going to be doing Zooms and stuff. Where's your first Zoom that you're going to be doing with your book company?
Well, I'm actually going to be doing one Well, I'm going to be doing a bunch of them with bookstores. So the best thing, like you said, there's a whole bunch of interviews that go along with the release of the book. The best thing that people can do is to follow me on Twitter at by Eric Sherman, BY Eric Sherman. My website is ericshermanbaseball.com, or you can follow me on Facebook at Eric Sherman Baseball.
Joe, what do you have, big guy?
Well, like I said, my son is playing high school baseball, and unfortunately, their pitching coach passed away just before the season began.
Really?
So I reached out to the head coach, and I said, I know you have a void to fill, and I'd be more than happy to come over and see if I can teach you boys a few things.
Wow, they're lucky.
So I'm going to be doing that now. As the season, I don't know, the season goes till the end of, let's see, it goes into May. Yeah, it goes into May, early part of May. They'll be done.
Now, you're in California now, right?
Yes.
Is that open up out there, or can you have parents to go out there and stuff?
Our area was did pretty well through this whole thing. And I know I just read something. We just elevated to a new level of getting over it. I don't know how to phrase that, but they now, restaurants can open to a higher percentage of occupancy and indoor dining and things like that. So
I know baseball season starts on Thursday, right? I know that is actually the first game is Thursday. Is that the first game Thursday? Who opens up first? Who's the opening game?
It's different than when I was a kid. I don't really know, but Thursday is the first game. I know the Angels open up on Thursday against White Sox at home. White Sox are in Anaheim.
Well, at least they're going to be playing baseball. I know that the Yankees got 20% of occupancy. They got 10 or 11,000 people going to the game. And usually we're at the stadium this time of the year, but I don't think it's going to be, we're going to be doing anything. And Old Timers Day usually in July of August. We haven't heard anything, and I don't think it's going to be enough people there. I think if everybody goes to the game, somebody sneezes and stuff, they all be going running out. Everybody's going to be having no idea what's happening. So I think it's going to be another year.
Work on your immune system.
Well, my immune system's good. I mean, I work out every single day. I mean, I go to the gym, and down in Georgia, it's a lot different than what is up in New York.
Right.
We've been like open up about 75 to 80%, since last year. And we don't see it as much, but a lot of people got it. Fortunately, I know a lot of people got really hurt by this, and a lot of friends and family passed away. And, this is the worst of the worst. And this is one reason why I started this, just to have the fans to be able to listen to this and to smile again, and for me to smile again and to rejoin with the fans. And this has really been fun, Joe and Eric and Billy, and this has been fun, and I love it. And I met some wonderful fans, new fans and whatever. And also I got a new book that's coming out on the 20th of April called The Captain and Me, about Thurman Munson. And I'm looking forward to that, and it's going to be great and stuff like that. And when is your book coming out, Joe?
My wife said to me yesterday that I should write a book.
Everybody does.
I said, no, I don't think so. I just, that's an awful big project. I'm not sure I'm the one to do that, but I don't know, maybe some famous author. Sure.
Okay.
Let's collaborate.
Never know.
You
got a prospect, Eric. You got a prospect, guy. You got a prospect.
The question is, who cares? Or do enough people care that could be something? Maybe in my little circle.
Fans love baseball. Let me tell you something. Fans love baseball. They love stories. They want to hear like fly on the walls. They want to hear locker room talk.
That's
They
the
don't
good
want to hear
thing.
Jose Canseco's where you killing this guy and killing this guy. Nah, they want to see the plays and, the fun that we had in the game of baseball. This is fun. I mean, hey, we had a great time and we made some great friends and there's great fans out there. Like you said, hey, the fans are the heroes of this. I lived a fantasy. You lived a fantasy. You lived what you wanted to do. We're very lucky to do what we got to do. And I'm so happy. And to do this and make some great friends and to meet Eric and to meet you and to meet Billy, this has been wonderful for me. I mean, I love it. And, Lenny Cosberg and Joe Garrido has started this and John Francis, they're the best of the best and I love them to death. And, hopefully we're going to keep on going and going and going till I can't do this anymore. And people are going to look at me and, we're going to Old Timers Day and I'll be the first one in New York City hitting the baseball and running around first base on a hover round, one of those, hover rounds going from home to first. And, I'll be on the back of the page of the New York Times and the Daily News. It'd be fun for me. It'd be fun. But again, I know that we have to go and stuff like that. But I love y'all. Anything y'all need for me to do, anything, Billy, Eric, and Joe, anything that you need for us to do. I don't know what we can do. We got beautiful fans and stuff. But anything that you need from us, we're here for you, big guys.
Thanks so much for inviting me. Let me tell you, I don't know if I've ever had as much fun doing something like this. Not that I ever did a Zoom, but any kind of interview. This one's number one. I really enjoyed this hour.
Oh, we love you. I mean, you're wonderful. I mean, and got to know you and got to see you and played, grew up in the greatest golf course in the world, Bethpage. I mean, you can't get any better than that, big guy. You can't get any better than that.
Yeah, it killed me a few times.
Oh, but you got to play up there. It's gorgeous up there. Not in the wintertime with the Northeastern. But, Billy living in Jersey, got the $25,000 equipment and whatever. What are you going to have next time? And Eric, all this is success in your books and stuff like that. This is going to be a winner. And I'm really looking forward to it, big guy. And hey, it's the best of the best. And I hope once this season starts, we'll all get to meet, somehow, somewhere, we know that we're part of the family. Baseball is a small group and you're part of the family and we love y'all all.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you very much, Joe. Love you, big guy. You be safe, be careful. Billy, you're the best. Eric, congratulations on your book. Can't wait till it comes out. It's going to be very successful. And you need to do a book with Joe. Joe would be good at this. I mean, Joe has a lot of good stuff. People want to know about this stuff. Hey, he gave you a little bit gave you a little bit.
Hey, Billy,
it'll be good.
Good luck to you.
Good luck to y'all, Joe.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Billy, thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, big guys.
Thanks, guys.
And we love you.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.